When I was 19 years old, I started taking an interest in foreign cultures. I was eager to find out what was out there, how people saw the world, what different lifestyles people lived. And so, towards the end of my second year in university, I started to look for food from places I'd never been before. A friend of mine was also really interested, so we went to check out Malaysian food, Moroccan, Polish, Ethiopian, all kinds of food. At that point, I already decided that I was going to start learning a language, but I wasn't sure which one yet. Japanese, Spanish, and French were at the top of the list, and I had already been exposed to Spanish and French. Some of my friends from high school spoke Spanish, although I never really heard them speak. I knew a little bit about the culture, at least. Japanese, on the other hand, was entirely foreign. It was completely mysterious for me, like it is for a lot of people. I didn't know any Japanese speakers. I had friends from all these different countries, including Asia, and I never met anyone from Japan. So that made it all more intriguing to me, especially because it was a country that had a very rich culture, both modern and traditional. And so slowly it started making its way to the top. There are other reasons why I became interested in Japan, and I'll talk about those another time. But mostly I wanted a challenge, the challenge of learning a language that had a completely different writing system and that sounded completely different and had totally different grammar. While I was still undecided, I was listening to all of this different music from around the world. Back then, it was a lot harder to find because we didn't have YouTube or Spotify, but I found a few chat rooms where people were sharing music or sharing different recommendations. I started with French music and Brazilian music. Brazil wasn't really at the top of my list at first, but it started to make its way up there because I became a pretty big fan of Baden Powell, a classical guitar player. But when I started to research Japanese music, one of the first recommendations I got just totally blew me away. After I heard it, I was almost 100% certain that I was going to go with Japanese. The music was just brilliantly crafted and so emotional that I just really wanted to understand what kind of culture could produce it. It felt like the music was just penetrating my soul. There was this profound sense of beauty wrapped in sadness. I had to know what it was about. That artist got me really excited that Japan would be full of that. And later I discovered that I had just gotten really lucky. She was by far my favorite from all the things I heard after that. After hearing her songs and her band's songs, I was pretty much sure I would be going to Japan. It's funny, even now, 15 years later, I still don't know what most of her songs are about. I never wanted to listen to them in a methodical way to study Japanese because I thought that it would take some of the magic away. Her songs are incredibly difficult, where even Japanese people can't really understand them. Since I've been talking about her now for a minute or two already, I might as well tell you who it is. The artist's name was Shina Ringo. If you know anything about Japanese pop music, you'll probably know who she is. I'm not a big fan of pop music at all. I generally stay away from it. But the first song I heard by her was Ringo no Uta, the version by her band Tokyo Jihen. And it was fun and I liked it, but it wasn't something that would bring me across the ocean. But then I heard her third solo album. The name was Karukizamen Kuri no Hana. I won't tell you what that means. You can go find out for yourself. It goes over my head. I think it goes over most Japanese people's heads too. But the very first minute of that album just pulled me across the ocean. I was ready to go after I heard that. And I stayed in a trance from the beginning of the album to the end. It's funny to think that now, years later, after living in Japan for almost 10 years, that I probably never would have come here if it weren't for that song. I probably would have lived a totally different life and it probably would have been good in its own ways. I might be in Brazil now, or I might be in France or India or somewhere else, but that's just how life works. I'm pretty happy things worked out the way they did. If something excites you, I think the best thing to do is to just follow it, see where it takes you, because there's a whole world out there to explore, and the best things to explore are the ones that make you feel good. Love you all. Peace.